The temperature cycle. The temperature cycle resulting from balanced interchange between the cold of space and the heat of suns is as follows. Cold generates. Generation contracts. Contraction heats. Heat radiates. Radiation expands. And expansion cools. Thus, our hot sun is being generated from cold space via its poles and is radiated back again into space by its equator in accord with the father-mother reciprocative process of inside-out, outside-in turning, and will continue to generate increasing heat in the sun until it becomes a true sphere. This spherical perfection has not yet been attained, for the sun has not yet reached the amplitude of its wave where all forming matter becomes true spheres. One opposite warns the other. When the amplitude position is obtained, its radiation will then begin to exceed its generation. It will be in the same condition as a man who has just passed his maturity high point, when death and life interchange their preponderances. From that point on, cold space will bore a black hole through the sun from pole to pole and will expand into a giant ring centered by a smaller sun recondensed from the remnant of its expanding self. Many such ring nebula are visible in the heavens, notably in the Lyra ring nebula. The stars tell the whole story. Excellent examples of the degeneration of a sun into a ring or rings by the inside-out turning process of negative electricity are the Owl Nebula, the Ursa Majoris, and the Dumbbell Nebula. One can likewise witness this inside-out turning process in his kitchen range. Jets of burning gas are seen as a blue and green flame around the black holes which center each jet. These gases are negatively preponderant, which means that they are thrusting out from their center in excess of pulling inward from it. The next is from the Divine Iliad, where God is speaking. There is no death. He who seeketh life without the light will find death, but he who seeketh the light will find eternal life even when he walketh toward death. He who knoweth not the light shall die to find it, but he who knoweth the light shall never die. In man's inhaling there is life, and death trails his exhaling. Yet must man breathe out to live again, and deeply in that he may die. Know thou then that I alone live. I do not die, but out of me cometh both seeming life and death. Life is but the inward flow of my thinking, divided, pulsing, and death is the outward flow. Know also that the divisions of my thinking are but equal halves of one. For I again say that I am one, and that all things which come from me are one, divided to appear as two. All things come and go from my divided thinking. All coming things are living things, and those which go are dead. Know thou that all creating things are resurrected from the dead, and dead things live again through my divided thinking. Again I say that all things are bound as one through light. I am forever creating my living body, and destroying it in a seeming death, that it may live in me to die and live again. The end of life and death is life's new beginning. Both life and death are one in me. All things are forever living and forever dying, and while they live they die, and also while they are in death they live. Such is my decree, my universal law, from which there is no escape for man or star or grain of sand. For all things flow from me, that they may appear to man, and return to me, that they may disappear from his senses in the cycle of my thinking. I am the repetitive God. All things which flow to me and from me flow again both ways through me forever, in a cycle which ends not, nor has begun. From my right hand life flows one way, and returneth to me full spent as death, while full death floweth the other way, and returneth to me renewed as life. Around my cycle both life and death wend their opposite ways, each seeking each until the twain meet, balanced at maturity, where each gives half to each. But when they pass that halfway point on their separate ways to me, each then gives thought to each, and then both know, as they return to me, that each are both, and both are one in me. Death is the seed of life. Death rebounds from death as life. From death life springeth from the soil, and from life death followeth, even as the perfume leaves the rose. Death giveth of itself to life, that life may live, and likewise life giveth to death, that death may die. Life is regenerating death, and death is life degenerating. Light leaves thy sun as death, and comes to thee as life, and when thy death leaves thee, it likewise becomes new life, to whom or in what its impact quickens with thy death. Two ways there are of breath, the inward charging breath of life, and the outward discharging breath of death. All opposed pairs of my divided thinking pass in opposite ways along these two paths in their transversing of my cycle. All things which I have divided into pairs of opposites have within them both life and death, but one of these is greater than the other until they meet as equals, halfway round my life-death cycle, halfway round my life-death cycle. When once they meet and pass, they then exchange these qualities, the greater growing lesser and the lesser growing greater. Even though life is full when life is born, death emanates from life itself as death, and takes the opposite path toward death. Likewise does life emanate from death to weaken it when death is strong, until life conquered death to make death live as life. Verily I say, life cannot live without dying as it lives, nor can death conquer life and gather aught to it but death. Life is my multiplying breath of compressive action, and death is my dividing, opposed breath which expands as life's reaction. Hear thou me when I again say that life and death are opposites which pass each other on my cycle, going opposite ways. Life attracteth life to life by its compression, and death repelleth both death and life by its expansion. I am the interchanging point of life and death. I balance life with death, and never in their changing can either death or life outbalance death or life. Write thou that death and life are one, as the swinging pendulum is one, even though it oscillates two ways in its incessant swinging. He who travels east in my curved universe arrives at west as surely as he who travels west. Likewise life traileth the eastern road to arrive at death, while death taketh the western road, where life awaiteth to quicken death as life. So also does death traileth the road of life to interchange with life, while life likewise traileth the road of death to find itself through death. Hear thou me say, there is no death in all my imaged universe. It is naught but life, for naught but life and love is in me, and my knowing. Naught is there in my thinking, which is not my knowing, and naught but life and love are in my thinking. Take thou man's death away from him in this new day of man. Give him eternal life in me by no